Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes, and you're listening to the Business Bootcamp podcast. Today we're going to be answering a question that I get asked quite a bit, probably a couple times a week, and that is, how do you hire people that are older than you in your business and as you grow your company? Before we get into today's show though, a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Gusto. If you haven't already, go to gusto.com/bootcamp. Try out the software completely free for the next quarter, 90 days. And if you have employees and you do payroll, I promise you this is a software you want to check out. Whether it be the cost itself, the customer service aspect, or just the ease of getting set up, Gusto is the place you want to do it. It's just by far the best solution I've ever seen, and 99% of the people that I've recommended it to, they agree once they've used the product. So check it out today, try it completely free, and then after that, it's like $6 a month per employee. So check that out. So today we are going to be talking about how to hire people that are older than you and how to make sure that your culture is not negatively impacted by the dynamic between the two ages. However, before we get into that, I just wanted to have a quick announcement, and that is we have one more spot available for our group of franchisees that is starting in November for Augusta Lawn Care. So we have a group of 10. That group of 10, well, technically there's 8 right now, but one is signing. And so we have one spot available that is actually 100% available. And so you definitely, if you're thinking about it, if you've been thinking about it, pondering it, mulling it over, if you have questions about it, definitely hit me up. Go to AugustaLawnCareServices.com/franchise. We can schedule a one-on-one call and see if it's actually the right business for you. We actually just signed up a franchisee from New York that is the first franchisee that we are going to have in the system that doesn't have any landscaping experience. And so if you're wanting to start a business and you have some capital and you want to get started, definitely check out AugustaLawnCareServices.com/franchise. Watch the videos and see if it's the right thing for you. Being part of this first group of 10 gives you 50% off your initial franchise fee, as well as no monthly fees all the way until next June. So you can really get the business established on its feet, ready to roll before you even have to start paying monthly fees. So you can see all the advantages of that on the website, and I would love to talk to you. And if you don't have landscaping experience, it can work. I'm just a little more picky about the type of person that I'm going to allow into the system if you don't have landscaping and lawn care experience. So check that out if it's of interest to you. We'll be having franchisee training here November 14th, 15th, and 16th for that first group. So today we're talking about how to hire older people. I get this question asked a lot. The reason for that is because I'm a young entrepreneur, and most of the people I've hired are older than me. So I've hired everyone from 16 years old all the way up to, I think the oldest person I've hired is 62, 63. And so I've kind of hired that whole gamut of individuals. And I feel like a lot of times when I look at other entrepreneurs that have a big issue with this, because it's funny how some entrepreneurs, this is literally not an issue. Like, I hardly even think about it when I see an employee, or I see, even someone I'm working with, like a supplier. I'm a little bit blind to age, to be perfectly honest. And so I don't even think about it. It doesn't feel weird to me. Part of it is because I went to school so young. So I went to college, started college when I was 13. So I was 13, 14 going to school with, 20, 24-year-olds plus people that were coming back to school and in their 40s. And I was, in their groups, and we would, go out to dinner to go over projects. And then, I was doing my MBA at 18, 19. So, then those people were professionals and had been lots of experience. And so I'm a little bit blind to the whole age thing. So sometimes it's actually a little bit strange for people to even ask me that, and for it to be such a big deal. Like, there are some young entrepreneurs that literally they freak out if anyone they hire is older than them. And I'm like, look, your business needs it. And I had this, and the reason I'm actually talking about this today is because I talked to someone last week, and they were so wrapped up in not being easy. They had hired one person that was older than themselves, and it didn't turn out very good. And so they kind of thought, hey, it has to do with age, and I can't hire anyone that's older than me. And when I went into the business and started helping them, it was like, look, you need someone older with more experience, and you got to get over this kind of, faux fear, like this fear of of hiring someone that's older and thinking that there's going to be some sort of cultural shift. And I said, if there is a cultural shift, it's a positive thing. Like, you need the struggling business. They needed someone with experience and someone that knew what was going on and knew the industry. And so I feel like whether you're 30 and you're hiring a 40-year-old or you're 50 and you're hiring a 60-year-old, like, there's going to be times when you're going to hire people that are way younger, way older. And so I've always kind of thought it's a weird question. Like, it's not necessary, but as I've talked, especially last week, but like as I talk to more and more people that ask this question, I get to understand like there's times when it actually does seem really difficult, especially when you've been hiring people around your age group, your kind of peer group around your age, and you're in your 20s, for example, and then all of a sudden you need to hire someone that has experience. It can be a little bit strange, and I can understand that if you've always been hiring on one demographic of age. So I just wanted to kind of, before I jump into a few things that I thought about when talking last week to this individual, was I just want to kind of, parenthetical note, say that I'm not very much age. I don't see it. Like, when I'm interviewing someone, as long as they're over 18, I'm not thinking they're young usually. And unless they're over 70, I don't really think they're super old. So like, I am very blind. I'm very much looking at, their personality, the way that they communicate, especially eye contact, things like that is what in terms of an employee, is what I'm looking at. And in terms of like working with other people, I'm just looking for like competence. I just want you to be good at your job. If it's a supplier, if it's, a web developer, I work with people on Upwork or freelancer.com, and like, they're all over the place in age and in where they live and race and everything. So it's just like, I just want the job done right. I want you to be competent. And so I'm a little bit blind to the age thing because I think because I went to school so young, and it became a very normal thing for me working with people that are quite a bit older than me. So first of all, I just wrote a couple things down. And I think one thing I didn't write down that is like, first of all, you need to act to the maturity level that you want them to act when it comes to this age thing, right? So if you're going to be like really sensitive about it and always bringing it up and talking about it, like, it's going to probably become an issue. But if you don't address it and you're just mature and you act in like an employer and employee relationship should, instead of a brother and a sister who's like 3 years younger or 3 years older and like tells them, I'm your big bro and you're my little sis and I'm going to tell you what to do, and you beat them up. Like, if that's the dynamic between older and younger, there's going to be issues. But if you can just keep it very professional, then and be very mature about it, I feel like that will be reciprocated if they're an older employee and you're younger. Like, if you don't address it and you don't talk about it all the time and always mention how you're younger, like, if you just are professional and you act as a boss and they're an employee and you get work done, then I see that that's the kind of like underlying theme behind a lot of this. But the first thing I wrote down is that you do need to realize that an individual that you're hiring that is older than you, and especially I'm talking like a 20-year-old hiring a 50-year-old. Like, I've been through that. Right now in my company, I think 1 or 2 people are younger than me, 3 maybe. So like, most of them are older than me, and literally a year and a half ago, I was the youngest person in our company. So I know what it's like to be there, and I think the first thing is, that, like I said, realize that the people who are older than you have more experience than you because they've lived longer. Like, so number one, like, don't be conceited to the fact that, like, oh, I'm young and I own the business and I'm the boss and I'm going to tell people what to do. Like, no. Take a step back and realize they might have twice your lifetime of experience, and you can draw a lot of wisdom from that if you're humble enough to realize, like, yes, they're your employee, but like, they also have a lot of experience that you could draw from. And so I have to step back because I'm so involved in business, and like, whether it be helping people on the podcast or in the course or the franchises or my businesses, and there's multiple of them now, and I'm so involved in it, it seems like literally I've been in business for ages, when in reality, I've really only been really serious about business for 6 or 7 years, where like every day it's all I do. And so that's not very long compared to someone that might be 20 years older than me and have literally 3 times the amount of experience in this industry or in business or management or leadership. And so even if they're my employee, they might have far more experience than me. Just because I'm the boss does not mean put me in the position of having more information or more experience or how I'm somehow better. Like, if you can be mature enough to realize that everyone on your team, regardless of their age, sex, race, size, whatever, like payroll, whatever it is, if you can realize that all of them have something to contribute to you and that they all can fill in your weaknesses at some point, and they're all going to have strengths where you're weak and you're going to be strong where they're weak, and that you can fill each other's gaps, if you can realize that and be mature enough to realize that, and you're hiring people that are older than you, you actually start to look at them as like partners. Like, look, okay, I'm hiring you as an employee and we need work done, but I'm also hiring you because I need your experience and your expertise and the things that you've learned for the past 30 years that I've only been around for 4 or 5 in this industry. Like, I need to know those things. And so that's a way you need to look at it if you're going to get the respect of those people. Because if you just treat them like you're the boss and you know everything, you're going to lose out on all the potential upside of gaining and cultivating or any sort of return on their experience, return on the years of knowledge that they have that you don't. You're going to lose out on getting any return on that if you do not respect them for who they are and what they bring to the table. And so I feel like a young entrepreneur turns a big corner and shows their level of maturity when they realize that regardless of age or any of those other things, that every single person on their team, you don't just hire their hands and what they can do. And I'm not just talking about labor, like I'm talking whatever it is, like the things that you do, the things that you make, like you don't just hire them for their hands, you hire them for their head. I feel like half the time we only hire and employ half the individual. That is their hands, the thing that does the work, that types on the keyboard, that answers the phone, and we don't hire the head that can problem solve and make things more efficient and produce more for the company if they're given the latitude and they're listened to and allowed to give feedback on their role and to allow them to give them the latitude to make that role better. And if you're young, you don't have a lot of experience that they might be able to draw on. For example, as we go into social media and all this sort of thing, you know, it can be easy for a young person to be like, well, I know social media more because I got all the apps on my phone and I am more tech savvy and all these things. But you got to step back. Like, if someone has 40 years of experience on you in the ad agency world, for example, they're going to know what it was like to switch from when it went from radio to TV. And they're going to be able to have that kind of connection. Maybe their parents went through it. Maybe they saw it when they were younger. And so they're going to be able to have a different perspective now as we switch from TV to like social media. And then like one day it'll go social media to like VR. They're going to be able to have more context on that transition. What was the things that worked back then? What were the trends back then? How did that transition take place? What were the advantages of early adopters? Things like that. There's always something you can learn from these individuals, and you will lose out on those things if you just say, I'm the boss and you all need to listen to what I say, and you don't give them the latitude to think creatively and contribute. And a lot of times they want to be doing that, as a good employee should, and therefore they will leave you, and then you will be stuck thinking that, oh, like they're just not working in our culture because they're not as young as us. When in reality, you didn't give them the latitude to be a great employee and contribute ideas because you put them in a box of being an older employee that doesn't know about tech stuff, and therefore you lost out on all the information, the knowledge, the experience that they could offer your company. So number one is realize that they have their experience and they've lived life longer than you and have valuable feedback and insight to offer. Number two, as a leader, if you're younger, if you're quite a bit younger than most of the people you're employing, I would highly recommend to be decisive, but not erratic. So what I mean by that is, don't take a long time to make decisions, because then they start to question whether or not you really know what you're doing, or if you're a good leader. They're looking for someone to follow, and if you have a waning focus and when there's a decision at hand, a decision needs to be made, and you're kind of like guessing or like you're hee-hawing back and forth and you're not decisive, that can be a reason for them to start doubting whether or not you know what you're doing and if you're competent enough to lead the company. And it can also cause them to be fearful of the security of their job. Remember, they're an employee for a reason. They're looking for a sense of security. And if you as a leader don't provide that to them, like, who cares about age? if you don't provide them that sense of security by not being decisive, then they will want to look for a leader elsewhere, to know that when hard times come, that they're going to have a leader that's in the front that is decisive, making action, trying to figure out things, make solutions. And so being decisive balanced by not being erratic. And so this is the flip side of going too far into this decisive zone, which is being erratic, like making decisions way too fast, not getting enough information. And so there's a 50-50 split I see between young entrepreneurs that have an issue with this, age thing of hiring older people than themselves. Is one side of them is not decisive enough. They he and haw about it. They question themselves. They ask everyone's opinion. Then they go online. Then they go try to find a what are they called? A mentor. Then they go read a book, and then they go look at some of their competition, and they don't know what to do, and they delay the decision, and they put it off, and they're not decisive. They don't just get it done. They don't follow their gut. And then the other side of that, the other 50%, a lot of times will be erratic. Like they will just go out and buy a big piece of equipment and not have the numbers, not know how long it's gonna take to pay it off, not know the payments, not know the cash flow. And so both of those, indecisiveness as well as being erratic, will completely take all trust away from an older employee that's looking to a younger boss for direction, leadership, and for someone that they can be inspired by. And so these are not things that I'm like, oh, I need to do this or I need to do this. Like these are things that I just see patterns with. All of these things I need to improve on. Like all of these things I need to be better at. I'm not saying I've mastered this by no means. And so these are things I need to improve on, and I've just seen as a pattern for younger entrepreneurs. The third thing is for hiring people that are older than you is balance strong leadership with an ability to listen. So it kind of correlates with being decisive in things, but it's more about the leadership side. So you want to be a strong leader, but also have the ability to listen. So what that means is, as a leader, you need to be out in front. And this is something I kind of struggle sometimes with. I like to kind of make it more of like a group effort, which is great. It's kind of like the PC thing to do these days. However, there's also a sense where they want to see someone out in front making the decisions. Because if you're just back with them and you're just looking for everyone's opinion all the time, and even if you might be decisive, but you're still wanting everyone's input for all decisions, that is going to also cause a sense of who's the leader here? Are we all leading? Are we all going our own direction? So sometimes you got to be out in front and be a strong leader, and then balance that out though with the ability to listen. And this goes back to number one about listening to people who have more experience than you. Is balance that strong leadership that when you have something in your mind and you just go for it, the strong leadership, and all right, folks, get on board and we're going for this. Balancing that with ability to listen, ability to hear what their thoughts are, hear what their concerns are, and have their questions voiced in a team meeting and discuss them, and maybe do take it to a vote if you think that that's the right thing to do. I tend to go more towards having people vote on things in the company versus me just saying it's going to happen. But there's a balance. There is a balance there, because if we're always voting on every single decision that happens in the business, eventually there's no leadership. There's just it's just everyone's going their own way, and we just vote on everything, what policies we make, or what advertising campaign we're going to run, or how much so-and-so is going to get paid, or how much so-and-so, what customer is going to get prioritized. There's got to be someone leading, but I think that there is a balance between leading hard, being a very strong leader, and when I say that, I mean seeing a goal and then just plowing towards it and expecting everyone to hop on board, and then balancing that with listening, having a meeting and just letting everyone give feedback, having an all hands on meeting where they submit questions. So there's a balance, I feel, and it's not a science. This is not an easy thing. As I thought more and more about this, and I get more and more questions about this topic of hiring older people than yourself, I feel I can start to see the complexities. I just honestly don't think about it a whole lot of when I'm hiring people. I just don't. So it's something I'm very happy I have, because I see other businesses that are small, and what's actually keeping them small is the fact that they're only looking to hire people at their age, and they're not looking to hire someone that's older than them or has more experience and can get them to the next level. And so I think the biggest thing is just realizing that everyone else has something to offer your company. I don't care if they're really young, really old, if they're really young, they might have perspectives that like are going to be really good for your business in 10 years, but you need to start implementing ideas, marketing ideas, branding ideas now, because it's going to their age demographic in 10 years is going to catch up and be your ideal customer. Same thing, if like I talked about, if there's someone way older than you, they're going to have a unique perspective when they saw trends happen, or when they saw things that are happening now in a different form of media, or a different form of technology, or a different form of politics or economic cycles that are happening. They're able to see that because they've just been around longer. So I feel like knowing that every single person on your team has something to contribute, and then balancing out leadership with the ability to listen, being decisive but not erratic. Those are some of the things I would tell a young entrepreneur that's looking to hire someone that's older than them. I'm Mike Andes. You're listening to the Business Bootcamp podcast. Until next time, be great, because nothing else pays.